I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore because
That's right.
when I started coming, I was really young. So I actually looked.
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore. And so I started coming, I was really young. So I actually looked.
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17. My mother used to go to the bookstore. And so I seen the...
Let me hear it again. Let me hear that.
So I actually looked.
How old were you at the time?
I was like 17.
Oh, okay.
I was 16, 17.
You was 16, 17 when you was around and stuff, right? Now, hold on.
This is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So,
what you say, Amunet?
Around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as...
Hold on. So 16, 17, basically meaning 16. Then Amunet admits, would you admit again, Amunet? Let's hear this.
Co-wife. So, like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So.
Okay. So 16, 17, she basically saying 16. Then Amunet doubles down and said she had been coming there for years. So basically they was fucking with her for, she said years, plural. So they was fucking with her since 13 then. Watching and grooming. Hit 16. Come on, be a second wife at 16. Interesting. Let's hear that again.
It's not like, a random person off the...
So you meet her, and then what happened in your mind? You're like, this is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So it's not like, a random person off the street. Like, I've actually seen her. I've seen her family.
Right.
We're pretty much on the same path. So I said, this would be a good sister.
How was...
You guys were pretty much on the same path. Let me hear this one more time.
Before we even...
You're like, this is a good one to be with?
Well, actually, yes, because like they mentioned, she has been coming around to the bookstore for years before we even consider her as a co-wife. So it's not like, a random person off the street. Like, I've actually seen her. I've seen her family.
Right.
We're pretty much on the same path. So I said, this would be a good sister.
How was Brother Polite able to convince you to do this?
Wow, good choice of words. Well,
in other words, how was he able to convince you to mess with this 15, 16, 17-year-old and marry her?
Like, for me, I thought more of the future. And as they mentioned, I was conceiving at the time. So I know I didn't have both parents.
Oh, Amunet, you going to jail. Girl, you was going to jail with your hubby.
Things that I was lacking growing up. And I wanted more. No, I wanted more for my child.
Right.
So I said, you know what? I can see how I can benefit because I also wanted to educate my child. So I was able to homeschool. My child was able to see both parents, and she was able to grow into inherited wealth because we already erected our own businesses. So I said, it's different, but I'm willing to give it a try. And he showed me results. Like, I've seen results, and she was very positive. Right? It was very positive. We was on the same path, like mentally as well.
Oh, okay.
And we all wanted more for each other.
Right.
So I said, okay.
That's amazing. And so, were you raised by both parents?
Nah, my father walked out at age 8, and I met my mother when I turned 17. She died the week I met her.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
From cancer and diabetes.
How about you? Were you raised by both parents?
No.
No?
My father left when I was young. I don't know.
You know what? I wish I knew the name of his mother. What is his mother's name? Has he ever mentioned his mother's name? Anybody?
What he looks like. But I had a stepfather.
Women don't normally like each other. And so how do you ladies deal with each other? Because you know how women are, right?
Right, yeah. Right?
Right. So how do you guys deal with each other when that thing comes up?
Okay, well, it's like this. Siblings, right? They all don't get along. Like, if it's something personal, like, say, Ra'et and I, like, I'll go to her, or she'll come to me, and, like, we'll sit down and we'll build. But the main thing, we normally just have everyone out, children included. Everyone speak their mind. This is what's bothering me. How can we fix the situation?
And you feel the same way about it? That's how you work it out?
Yeah, pretty much. So we all know, like, females can be very catty.
Yeah.
We know that can come into play, or the ego. And so it's really just bearing in mind what we started this for. Right. And also knowing a person. Because when you get to know a person, then you understand that they're no longer your enemy. You don't have to actually compete against them, you know, because you're for them and they're for you. So it just makes it easier when things like that come along.
And so when he brought in the next two, all three of you got together and discussed the same
That's
process.
usually how it is. And ultimately, before that even happens, we'll get a feel of the female. Because everyone is inherently good and has inherently bad in them too. It's a choice. Right. So it's really vibing with the female itself, because honestly, he may be the center of the relationship.
Right.
But if the females are not in a cohesive unit, if they're not communicating and they're not for it, it's not going to work. That's true. It's really not going to work.
Interesting. So, she's been coming around the bookstore for years, she say. So, let's just put 3 years on it. 13. Then they hook up at 16. Oh, Amunet and Polite, y'all going to jail.